Hi, Rui. Welcome back. And Eeshan, welcome for the first time to the live streams here. Thank you both for joining today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I feel like I get a chance to have you on like once or twice a year, Rui, with all the stuff that's been happening in the last couple of years with development mode and all the cool things at TMDL.
Yeah, for sure, and always great pleasure talking to you and sharing, evangelizing the amazing things about the developer mode, the PBIP, the TMDL, and now finally the PBIR.
Some type of a report definition language. I'm pretty sure that the first time, because it was with Matthias and Gabi, right? That I think premiered TMDL a year and a half ago at SQLBits. And I know that one of the first things outside of the excitement for that was immediately from the audience, like, all right, what are we going to get this for the report layer as well? Like, this is amazing, but also where's the other half of the coin? So
Yeah.
it's great to see this finally coming out. And I think we're setting a high bar of already a much higher potential that this will have as it continues to grow. But I think, as I always do with my streams, if you two want to give a bit of a background about yourselves, we'll start with you, Rui. A little quick background on who you are and your involvement with Microsoft, and then Eeshan, I'll hand it off to you as well.
That's good.
Yeah, so my name is Rui. I'm a product manager on the Power BI team. I focus mostly on enterprise BI, pro BI tools. So features like the developer mode and the Git integration for semantic models and reports. And yeah, so I just want to say that great pleasure to be here with Eeshan. So being a PM at the Power BI team and one of the great pleasures I get out of it, because I worked in Power BI for so many years, is to talk with folks like Eeshan and learn the story behind the scenes and how the things got implemented. So thank you, Eeshan, for joining.
Yeah, no problem. My name's Eeshan. I'm a developer on the Power BI team. I've been working on this team for the last 9 years at this point, so I have a lot of history. So happy that I could help Rui on this project. I've been one of the persons who've been working on this whole new report format, and it's just been a pleasure, like finally introducing it out to the world.
Yeah, it's I'm sure a lot of time and love went into this and getting it out the door. So it's and I'm glad you released it sooner than later to also just get some community feedback, because there's a degree of, there's only so much that you can know about any product, and then the blind spots that can only really be discovered by the community leads and just customers that use it in ways that you in 1,000 years would never think of using yourselves. But there's a lot of practicality in those niche scenarios.
Yeah. So we are aware of that there is an extensive list of limitations, but we still decided to ship it, and it's mostly as a desktop feature, because from the desktop side, I would say that there is no limitations. There might be bugs, of course, but there is no limitation. So the feature is how we want it to be, or how we want the feature to from the functional side to function. But on the service side, yes, there are quite a bit of limitations. Most of them will be solved, or a big chunk of them will be solved in the next few weeks. And we do hope that in the next upcoming months to resolve most of them. Yeah, other than that, you can play with it, you can crash it, you can please give us the feedback.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's
Where
been
would you
like
to start?
So actually, we started this internally a year ago, more or less, right, Eeshan?
Yeah, over a year ago, I would say. Yeah.
So
and this
almost
was like
almost the same time that TMDL came out publicly. Basically, the conversations immediately started on this.
Yeah, and the video you were referring to, that I don't remember the name of who asked that question. Believe me, I use that recording quite a lot to say, hey, we need to do this. We need to do this. This is people are asking for that, and it's really, really important, and it is.
Yeah, I remember. I think Matthias did a demo of it. I think I was one of the first channels that he did it on. He did like one user group before me, but it was shortly after SQL Bits that he did a deep dive into TMDL, and and then since then I think there's been a rapidly growing fervor around just being able to like have these advanced developer mode features for everything front end and back end, but like just some of the sheer amount of automation potential that will be coming. I'm very sure from a lot of external tools and people like Mike Carlo who really like to figure out ways to have like button clicks and using things like semantic link to just to automate so much. But I think also for from the perspective of just taking a look at it, where would we like to start on like digging into the code and just taking a look at the PBIR? If you want to flip over to your desktop.
Yeah, so I can do like an end-to-end demo, intro demo, and also showing some amazing stuff that you can now finally do with the PBIR, and especially in a supported and blessed way. That because you could have done similar stuff before, but you had to rely on external tools using unsupported mechanisms, and that's the big change. Because right now first of all, we have a public format. We never had a public format in the Power BI team. So the report was always this internal thing. It was never exposed. So now it's exposed.
Yep.
It's documented. So with JSON schemas that document every single property. And our tools are okay for you to make changes outside of our tools. So you can make open the file in VS Code and make changes to it. And if the changes that you do are okay according to the schemas, and you don't do any bad stuff, it will open fine, and we will do the best we can whenever you do some bad stuff to tell you what you did wrong and what you need to fix. But just to segue to what you were saying, I literally I can't wait to see what the community, what the users, what type of scenarios this will unlock.
Yep.
This is like a Pandora box in terms of possibilities here. So there is so many things you can do, from ensuring visual consistency across pages, batch edit, so whenever you are in that situation where you need to go and do a change in 1,000 visuals, you don't need to do that. You can script that. You will probably use an external tool that will exist, or which will be created by the amazing Power BI community to do that. And finally, you can even do deployment of a report, only the report, using the new Fabric REST APIs, and make changes to the report before you publish. That's actually what I want to do on the demo. And things like translations, for example, you can do translations of the reports and generate reports in multiple languages. So I really can't wait to see what will come out of this.
Well, the BPA stuff's my favorite, for sure.
Oh yeah. I was even forgetting that. So there are already some tools to do that. So enforcing rules, like on your deployment mechanism, or deployment pipelines, you can have rules like, hey, all the top visuals should be in this position. You should not have more than 20 visuals or 50 visuals per page. And those types of validations will be very simple, because you just need to count the folders or the files.
Yep.
So yeah. So let's go for a demo.
Sure, absolutely. Let me go ahead and flip over to your screen here.
Yeah, like the whole publicly documented format is like one of the big things from my perspective, right? Like we have added like so much documentation around every single property in the file format, and we're still working on enhancing a lot of that right now. So
when I'm working with some of the external tool developers on like what should be rules as well, I think there's a select few of us who are to kind of have like, I don't have a written list, but I know in my head like there's a lot of these unspoken things like you should and should not do on a report, and I think it's still in its infancy of actually figuring out what should be the the reds, oranges, and yellows, like what's high, medium, and low priority on like things that have been done quote unquote wrong on a report page. Because unlike a data model, which I think is a lot more like kind of clear cut good and bad practices, it's a lot more personal preference and almost art versus science when it comes to like reporting bad practices, depending on your design methodologies. So I think there will probably be a lot of different rule sets that will eventually exist in 6 to 12 months, where depending on the expert you're talking to, they'll have their own version of what's considered best practice for the report layer. But I will look forward to it when you can basically almost like with Marco and the DAX optimizer, where you can basically put his brain on your model just automatically and scan it. I think you'll eventually have experts like myself, Mike Carlo, maybe Kerry Kolasco, people who are really specialized in reporting. You'll probably eventually have a tool with their kind of rule set knowledge that can be able to scan and then tell you to how close you align to their methodology for design, which will be really cool.
Definitely, and I think that the main reason that tool do not exist today, it was because it was really, really difficult to do that before, because you had to do some guesswork to understand what the property means and how it works, and there was a lot of things in that report, Jason, and we can talk about that in a minute, like that was there, but it was not actually part of the report definition, and we did a lot of work cleaning that up and removing those parts from the report definition, because they were needed for desktop and for the service. So it's not actually and some but if that thing was not documented, you had to you don't know, and you actually it was like this mammoth effort to just realize what you need to change and what the things mean. And that was a big part of this project, and that in the end it just seems like okay, you are just serializing into folders, and believe me, it's not.
Yeah.
It's way more complex than that, but yeah, I'm very, very happy with the end result, and with the amount of possibilities that this feature will open.
And so what are we looking at now in front of us? We got an InventionWorks file with looks like a line chart at the moment.
Yeah, so I have a report. So I'm not not the best report designer, as you can see. So a very simple report, 3 pages, a visual on each page, and a slicer configuration in the top, the title and the logo, and a very simplistic star schema. Okay, first thing that you need to do, if you want to try out the PBIR, you need to go to File, Options, and the Preview Features, and you must enable the PBIR Preview feature. By the way, PBIR stands out for Power BI Report Enhanced Report Format, and because it's not the second version, it's not, the first one was never public, so we decided to stick with the PBIR, like Power BI Report. And the feature that you must enable is this one. So it's inside the PBIP, because the PBIR is stored whenever you save as a Power BI project. So, and if you enable this feature, and now I'm working on a PBIX file, so that I have, and I wanna try the PBIR. So you go to File, Save As, and you pick a folder, and you save as a PBIP. So nothing changed to the regular developer mode that you already know. So you save as a PBIP, and when you save, now we just save the metadata of your Power BI development into a folder. I really love this feature. So this is the flyout. You can open the PBIP folder directly from here. Hopefully in the future, really nice. We'll even have some open in VS Code. That would be great, right? So when you open the PBIP folder, you have the semantic model, which has a definition folder, which is using TMDL. So we are not going to talk about TMDL today. And now, finally, on the report, instead of that, don't be bad at me, Eeshan, that very ugly report.json, you have a folder. And that folder is called, for consistency with the semantic model, it's also called definition. And let me open this in VS Code so we can explore the folder in a better way. So, and in that definition folder, you basically have the entire report definition split it out into multiple files and folders. So you start with the report.json that holds all the properties of the report, so things like the theme and the resources, and you have the bookmark folder that has a file for each bookmark that will have all the entire bookmark configuration, and then you have a folder for the pages and a subfolder for each page. So each page will have its own folder, and when you expand the folder of the page, you have another folder for the visuals, and then each visual also has its own folder because by default it's just one file. But if you have a mobile configuration, you will see that there will be another file for the mobile. Now, the first thing that you can notice here is this GUIDs over here, so which is not very user friendly. And by default, we have a naming convention, and the naming convention is to use a GUID, and that's the name. So if you somehow crack the PBIX and you looked into the report.json, you will see that every object has a name. So we are using that name, and we cannot change it for existing reports. So we are saving that into, by default, we are saving the page. The page folder will be using the page name. But if you noticed, a few of them, so I just saved this PBIP, and some of them are not following that convention. Why? Because this PBIX, I round tripped it between the PBIX and the PBIP, and on that PBIP, I renamed that folder. So this means that you can rename the folder into using a meaningful or a more user-friendly name that you want. So, and this will be very useful, for example, for Git diffs, to quickly identify the visual that you are changing. And actually, I did something like because I renamed the page, the first page as the main page, and I renamed all those top visuals as some top something. So I know that this is because I want to replicate these visuals across pages. So renaming those folders makes things really easy because I no longer need to. Let's imagine that I have a report with 50 pages, and I have this visual configuration, and I want to make a change. I want to go to this. I want to put the title on each page. I want to change the color. I want to put this in I don't know, red. Now, without the PBIR, if you want to do this, you need to go to every single page and you need to apply the same formatting. So if you have 50 pages and if you have like 10 visuals in the top, it's like an hour of work. Now, with the PBIR, that's very simple because you can just do it. And that's why I call the main page. So this is my main page, and I know that I have my top page visuals over here. And if I want to replicate that, I just need to make the change in one page. I do it once, and then I copy and I paste to all the other pages. So I don't need to do that manual operation, and I can even script this out. But I'm going a little bit off rails here. But let's keep going into the naming,
now,
the file format.
As a quick mention for the visuals, so if the visual has a custom name, the custom name looks like it's showing up, but otherwise it's giving the visual, if it's unnamed or if it's the default, it just gets the GUID, correct?
Yeah, by default, it will always take the name that exists in the JSON, and it will put that in the folder. What I'm telling you is that you can change the folder name, but you can, and you probably should, keep the name as the GUID. So if I open this, you notice that I have the top logo folder. I renamed the folder, but I did not rename the name. Why? Because if you rename the name, you might break internal and external references to this visual. So things like bookmark will get broken. Things like a personal bookmark in the service will get broken. So you need to be careful about that. If this is a new report and you haven't published to the service, it's fine. You can rename it. You just need to make sure that the name is unique. But if this is an existing report that was already published to the service, you are perfectly fine to change the folder and the file name if it is a bookmark, but it's not. You should be careful renaming the name. So because you might break stuff. Okay.
The reason we've been using name rather than like the display name that you've been talking about is display names could have a bunch of characters that are not really like allowed as folder names or file names. And so just using those GUIDs lets us do an easy mapping to get started with. And then the users can go change their file names or folder names to be something more meaningful later on.
Okay,
And also the
that
uniqueness,
makes
right?
sense then. Yeah, like because you can put emojis and a bunch of other like non-printed characters and very odd things. So you probably only potentially capture 80-90% of the names, and the rest are either going to blank out or it would just break the folder structure. Okay, that's fair.
And you can have pages with the same name as well, which is also a problem. But that's the type of thing that please share that feedback on the things that you would like to see. That we can change that. But this was the safest option that we know that it works, because the name has already some character restriction. So we are sure that it's valid for the folder names. Okay, so. And looking into the JSON file, so the first thing that you see that it's very, very, very different from the previous one is this is properly formatted JSON. So this is no longer inline JSON in a single line that you cannot merge and you cannot resolve merge conflicts. And another thing that I love this is every single file have this $schema property. And the $schema does two things. One, it applies the schema to the JSON. And the second, it also defines the version. So this is the version of the document that we will keep evolving every time we add a new property or we change something. We will evolve the version. And these are publicly available schemas. So you can just click and you can open this in the browser and it will be available. And on the documentation, there is a link that will take you to a GitHub repo from Microsoft, that it's not even specific for the Power BI team. It's a Microsoft JSON schemas where all the schemas are published there. So if you are a partner and you want to create a tool, the schemas will be critical for you if you want to make changes to the report JSON to validate if those changes are correct. And the beauty of this is that if you open one of these JSON files in a tool like VS Code, VS Code can read the schema and it will apply the schema. Like, if you just hover your mouse on any single property, you get documentation for free. You can understand what that property means. So without having to do anything, you don't need to install any tool. This is just out of the box of VS Code. And another very cool thing is if you make a change, VS Code will also tell you that, hey, you have a problem in your file. And you should fix that. Otherwise, desktop will break when you open this back in Power BI Desktop. And another thing is you also get IntelliSense. If you want to know which properties are available, you can just control space, and you can see all the properties that are available for this file, which is one of those simple things, but very, very powerful. That can greatly help anyone that is going to make a change in the report using an external tool like VS Code.
And also, just as a quick mention, where is the best place for people as they're using this to provide feedback if they wanted to?
So there are two ways, or there are a couple of them. So one is when you open a Power BI report, especially because that is because of the limitations in place and in the service, you will see a banner. I just closed that banner, but if I reopen the report, I would see that banner again saying, "Hey, this is still a preview feature," and that is a shared feedback button there. You can click there. If you want to share some specific feedback for PBIR, just go there. On the blog post, that is also another link. This is also on the blog post, and that is also another link to a community forum in the Fabric community. Let's say if you want to share things like a sample file or some screenshots, you can go to that community forum and you can share the feedback there. And please don't hesitate to share any feedback. Okay. So this is the file structure, and of course, that the big advantage of having this folder structure and properly formatted JSON is that now you can track changes. So you can initialize. I already have my folder as a Git repo. And this means that if I now go to my report and I make some changes, like, okay, let's make this visual shorter, let's copy a new one, and let's make a change on the measure, and let's also make a formatting change on this one. Like, okay, let's apply some shade color in here, so something like that. So I did some changes, and now I hit save. And this is also very, this is important. An important thing to understand is that now you can also track the changes that the desktop tool is doing to the report for you to learn what you need to do if you want to automate something. Okay, so you don't need to guess. Go to the schemas and understand the schemas to understand what you need to do if you want to apply a filter. All you need to do is you do it once, and you do it in the tool, and then you do it behind with a Git repo, and then you go to VS Code, and you can track the changes. So, and I can see that I have a few changes. I can see that I have the changes. So what did I change? I'm sorry, I don't think I'm in the right one. So this is, yeah. So I can see that I have a change on the which visuals change it. So this is also a very very interesting, because if you change only one visual, you will only see one change in one file. So this makes it possible and facilitates things like co-development. You can have two developers working on the same page. If they are not working on the same visuals, that's fine. If they are working on the same visuals, then you will get a conflict that you will be able to resolve, because this is properly formatted JSON. But awesome. But the thing is that now, whatever you do, and I just before I renamed I changed the color of the title, so I can see that change. I can see that it's
Oh, Rui, might have just frozen. I still see you moving, Eeshan.
Okay, yeah, I thought there might be some.
But Rui, okay. Hopefully the demo gods pop him back in.
Oh. I think I just dropped. I don't know why.
I hear you again, Rui. So I do hear you.
Sorry.
Your video is still froze for a second, but I do at least get your audio.
Let me try to share. But the call just dropped. Can you see the screen?
So we'll have you share one more time. Just because what it does is it freezes frame on the last thing that you shared for you. So I see your audio's in, but your camera's off and you haven't shared screen yet. So I think you'll just need to reactivate both of those.
Okay. Sharing again the screen.
Yep.
Can you see the screen?
Screen's up. Yep. Screen's back up. And there we go. Okay, now your video's back up.
Okay.
Cool. All right.
I'm sorry. I don't know what happened.
Oh,
probably something on my end, but
cool.
but you heard that until this, like the this, right? So or I was talking to myself.
Yeah, you were talking about the diff changes with like the fonts and the colors, and you were showing the kind of the breakouts in that section.
Okay.
Right
so
there.
You can track the changes. So you can see that I changed the position and the size of one of the visuals. I have a new visual over here. So this is the update, and I can even see it here. So you can see that this is in green. In green, it means that it's a new file. And look at the file is a GUID. That's the default again. So it's a GUID, and what's the GUID? The GUID is the name of the visual. But again, I can rename it if I want. But the point that I want to make here is that you can track the changes. You can learn what the tool is doing. And finally, you have a good source control experience and a co-development experience. Okay?
Exactly.
And I'm sure I'm missing one or two things that you can do with this, but that's the point. So source control, co-development, track changes, learn what the tool is doing. Now, I want to show you the cool stuff, or things that you only now you can do this in a supported way. And that's where I truly believe that this can change the way you develop reports, and it's a dramatic improvement into the report development efficiency. Okay, so what we are going to do, and let's talk about the problem. So the problem is this: And I'm sure that every report developer working with Power BI for more than a year already faced this. Like, you have a report, and you have a report with 3 pages, and you wanna publish this report with a certain a certain configuration. So you want to make sure that whenever you publish, the page 1 is the page that is selected, and whenever you publish, the slicers are going to have, like, okay, the slicer will be the current year, and the country should not have any selection at all. So, but then what happens? So what happens is you publish this report, and then tomorrow or next week you come back to the report and you want to make a new development, and then you do something like this. Like, you go to page 2 and you are testing stuff, and you do some selections, and you do some measure, you test that measure, and then you publish. And the problem is you forgot to reset the report to the state that you want it to be. And then, okay, you publish, and then the worst thing that can happen is the user detects that it's not seeing the data that he wants, and it's a bug, and goes back to you, and then you have to plug in your laptop at 10 p.m. because there is this very serious bug. So that's a problem. So how can you solve that? So you can solve that with the PBIR, and you can have some automation deployment processes. So what we are going to do is, first, we are going to use the amazing Fabric REST APIs, the CRUD APIs, that finally you can deploy a report alone without the data and without the PBIX. So you can use the PBIR metadata, and you can use the Fabric REST APIs together with that PBIR metadata to just create or update the report. And those APIs shipped last December, and they are amazing. So we are going to use those APIs. And what we are going to do is, before the deployment, we are going to manipulate the report. We are going to set the page that we want it to be. We are going to set the slicers how we want it to be. And we are also going to do another thing that is very cool. We are going to inject a visual, because every time I deploy the report, I want to put some text box here in the bottom saying that what's the environment, and this is like a dev environment, and the timestamp when this report was published. And I don't want my developers to do that every single time. And the advantage of doing something like this is that you can create this ease of mind that you no longer need to remember that you need to reset stuff. You can just, okay, do it once. You script it into a deployment pipeline, or it can even be a PowerShell script. I'm going to show a PowerShell script that you have side by side with your PBIP, and you deploy it from there. So you no longer deploy from Power BI desktop whenever you want to publish this into a dev environment, or even into production. And by the way, the publish is disabled because it's one of the limitations. Again, we will resolve it soon. Okay, nice. Got a problem, right? So we are clear on the problem. No questions, right?
We've had a few throughout it, but that have all been self-answered as you've gone through the demos.
Okay. So let's put some weird configuration in here. So that's fine. So page 3 is the selected configuration in my report, and I'm going to save. So in my PBIP, if I go to the PBIP, you will see that in the pages, it will have the active page is the 3rd page. I want it to be the first page. So I have in my PBIR, I don't have the configuration that I want. So, and I have the script. And by the way, this is already in my GitHub. I can share the link, and then you can post it in the channel. So don't worry on taking screenshots. So I will gladly share the code with you. So the script basically starts by defining, okay, to which workspace I want to deploy, what's the path of my semantic model, or the path to the semantic model folder in the PBIP, because we also want to deploy the semantic model. Although, just to make the script run faster, I'm already targeting so my semantic model is already published. The only thing that is not published yet is the report, just to make things a little bit faster. And I'm also using a PowerShell module that is published on the Microsoft Analysis Services repo. It's called Fabric PS PBIP. This is basically just a wrapper over the APIs, because there are things like authentication, handling, long-running operations, that you need to put a little bit of code for that. So this is an open source module. I created this module. We will have our official model somewhere in the future. But for now, you can use this one. And the script basically just downloads the module directly from Git. And it starts by doing the authentication and creating the workspace, deploying the semantic model. And here's where the magical step starts. So the first thing that we will do is we are going to the pages file of the PBIR, and we are going to set the active page. So I want to make sure that whenever I publish, this is the active page that I wanna. So I'm going to this file and I'm going to set this property. That's the first change. The second change is a little bit more complex. So I'm going to get all the visuals across all pages that have this name. And I know that this is the name because this is the name of my slicers. So my slicers, they are duplicated across all pages. So I did that technique of I only develop in one report and then I copy and paste the folder. So the name of the visual is the same on all the pages. So the name of the visual needs to be unique under the page. It's not for the report. So you can have visuals with the same name in different pages. So this is so I know that the slicers have this name, so I'm searching for those names. I could have done this differently, like search for the visual type slicer, something like that, but I wanted to keep it simple. So I'm getting all the visuals from all the pages with this name, and then for every single file, I'm reading the JSON and I'm going to apply the filter. So and this is the JSON that represents a filter. So this is using the semantic query, and in here, and maybe Eeshan can talk about that better than me. But in here, basically what I care about is, okay, this is the property I want to filter, and this is the value I want to filter. I want to put this every time to be the current year. Again, it's a big chunk of JSON, and you might say, I don't know how to create that. I know, but the tool knows how to create that. So you can go to the tool, you apply a filter, you see what it does, and you copy and paste it here. As easy as that, okay? Now, so I apply the filter, and then what I do is I go to the visual.objects.general.properties is where the filter will lie, and I remove whatever is in there, and I add that filter to the slicer. So what I'm doing is the equivalent of someone coming here and going to the visual and selecting to 2004 and doing this like with in the slicer. You do have the sync slicers that can also help you on that, but if you don't have the sync slicers, but you need to do that for every slicer. So this is Go ahead.
Using notebooks, I think, this is going to change at least in the future with Miguel's vision on but there's a limitation that a lot of people find frustrating in Power BI is there's no dynamic default selection for slicers today. Like it has to be a fixed selection, which is 2024, or there's some hacks where you can build a custom calendar table for like current as a label, so you can always have it be current, and that's just a different time period every time the model refreshes. But otherwise, no way to have it change the dates. But in theory, until that comes out, where slicers actually get this down the road, because that's in the PBI Core Visuals roadmap sometime in the future. You could do something like this where you batch this, but you could also potentially schedule it maybe in like a notebook or something where once a month, let's just assume that you have 50 reports that all should default to the current month, but it actually should filter in a slicer selection to like June 2024. Instead of like some fancy model, and it should be the actual month. So you could have a schedule to update the report layer, and the script itself would whatever magic is inside of there, the automagical script would be able to batch update all these reports to change the default saved slicer selection, if I'm understanding that correctly.
Yeah, definitely. So that's a very good point. So you can in this is a scenario that I want to do that when I deploy. So I want to make sure that my deployment is the way I want. What you are saying, it's another scenario, which is very interesting. That is, everyone is deploying things and I have all these reports deployed and I want to make sure that they are following a certain rule. Or you can even do things like I want to replace a logo in all my reports because my company was acquired or something like that. So you can definitely do that. I also have on my GitHub repo some examples on how to do that. I even have an example exactly on how to swap a logo. And two things are needed for that. One, Fabric notebooks. So Fabric notebooks are great for BI developers, especially on the automation space. So if you haven't looked into that, please do look at the semantic link. Your life will never be the same. And if you use the Fabric notebooks together with the Fabric REST API, so the same APIs I'm using, you can get the definition of the report. You can manipulate that definition of the report using the PBIR, and then you can update the definition using a Fabric notebook. And again, I don't have the link at hand, but if you go into my GitHub, I have a repo called Fabric Notebooks. I have a few examples on how you can do that. And there is also another amazing repo exploring a lot of things around this space by Michael Kowalski from the CAT team that has some amazing tools how to do best practice analyzer on the reports for using the PBIR and the semantic link.
Dropping those links in there now for your repo and then Michael Kowalski's. And there is a few questions that I know you'll get to it at some point, but they're showing a couple of the examples of things that you could do via notebooks and the semantic link in terms of those batch updates. Because the synonyms, not synonyms, but translations I know is a big one as well.
Yeah, if we have time, I can try to do a demo, but around that. But again, you can also try it yourself using using one of those existing notebooks that I published. But let me just go to the end here. So, I apply the filter, and another thing that I'm doing, I'm going to remove the filter, another one. So for the country, if there is any filter, I just want to remove it. So I want to make sure that whatever is in here, we are going to clear it. And that's the only thing. And this one is way more simple. All we need to do is remove the filter property. And another thing, and this, I'm going to do a very simple thing, but again, it's a concept here. So I can have a folder in my repo, and I call it Team Visuals. And I have a watermark visual. I can do this for logos. I can do this for whatever visual that you want to have, like a template. And this watermark visual was a visual that I created in desktop. It's just a text box, and it has a placeholder text. And what I'm going to do is, before the deployment, I'm going to copy that visual inside each page. It's just a copy and paste. This is what I'm doing using the PowerShell copy item. So I'm copying that folder with the visual to the page, to each page that I'm of my report, and I'm going to change the placeholder, and I'm going to put something like environment, okay, dev, test, or prod, and the timestamp. So what we are doing, and the thing that I want you to understand is, we are adding visuals. We are like programmatically changing the report by bringing new visual. And you can do this. You can even think on ways to have a template of a report. Like the report, what the developer will build is something. It's just this the center part. All of the rest comes from a template that all the developers will share. This is the type of possibilities that the PBIR open. So let me run the script. So I don't have the report yet. So if I run the script, this will do all those actions that I just explained. And I know that if you are not familiar with PowerShell, that this might be a little bit hard. But again, you can do this whatever language you want. You can do this with Fabric notebooks for sure. The only problem of the Fabric notebooks is that you won't be able to plug in a Fabric notebook in your deployment pipelines. But you can do this with Python. You can do this with C#, whatever the programming language. And I'm pretty sure that the community will come up with also tools to abstract all of this for you. So if I go, now I have my report. So this is the report I just created. Recall that I selected the page 1, but if I had on page 3, so imagine the page was like this, so with the slicers configured all around. But if I go to my published report, I can see that it's on the page that I want it to be, page 1. I can see that watermark visual that do not exist in my report. So that watermark visual do not exist in my report, and I can see that visual on every single page here in the bottom. I can see that every single page have the country reset, and the year is always 2024. Actually, I don't have data for 2024, and that's why this is showing empty. But again, you don't need to spend effort or time, especially on large reports, doing this type of stuff manually. And yeah, this is it. So amazing, right?
I mean, well, a little party favor for that one, but the amount of I think possibilities that this is going to have for like batch deployments, where you know, give it a couple of years, I'm sure there's going to be scripts that are thousands of lines long, but like you configure a few knobs and dials, and it can auto deploy a report with the pages that you'd want for it, the visuals on the pages, the relevant for it, fetching the data from a certain location. Where, you know, with this in TMDL, it will be able to automatically spin up a workspace and all of your starter kit reports as necessary, like, you know, once that's that has been set up. So it's, as you said, like you provided all the most of the tools in the toolbox needed to do this stuff, and now it's really a matter of people actually building the automations themselves to start to do the deployment and everything else. But batch changes, batch deployments are going to be really useful. Just thinking about that though too is a lot of this sounds really great for like enterprise clients, for sure. Like, you know, when you have companies that have, you know, hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of reports, easy to make, you know, global changes like that. Thinking from the mom and pop shops, the SMB, you know, small to medium businesses, what would you say are some of the things that stand out for this on like why they might want to go look at this? So like, you know, they only have 5 or 10 reports, you know, globally. Like, why not just say update that in a PBIX? What would be their best draws to this new formatting language?
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Did your headphone die?
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't
Your
die,
mic's working
but
though.
mic is working?
I
sound is
currently
good?
hear. I do hear you at least. Yes. Oh, the last mic was better.
Yeah, okay. Is it working
There we
now?
go. Totally good. As long as you can hear me, we can hear you just fine, and the mic quality is good.
And can you speak? I'm not sure if I'm hearing.
Testing.
Oh, come on.
Murphy's
Okay.
Law.
Yeah. Is it working now?
Yes.
Okay.
We can hear you, and it sounds like you can hear us.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. My headset just died.
No worries.
So can you repeat the question?
Yeah. So essentially, like from a scaling perspective, some amazing features for enterprise clients, definitely on batch changes. But like for a smaller company that maybe only has 5 or 10 reports, what would be some of the features that would benefit them the most from using this language versus just sticking with the PBIX file, if we were to look at it at a smaller scale?
Yeah. So first of all, I want to make something clear that it's not our goal to move everyone into the PBIP. Okay. If you are a self-service user, the PBIX is better for you. It's better to copy and paste things, to share things with others. It's simple. It's just one file, so you don't need to worry about the folder, because if you are not using Git and then you want to share a PBIP with another person, you need to like zip things and send the zip. So it's way more complex than the PBIX. So I don't want to. I don't think that the PBIP is not for everyone, and especially if you are a self-service user, and if you don't care about code development, if you don't care about tracking your changes over time, so you'll probably you are better with the PBIX. Now, but even if you are, there are scenarios that even if you don't know how to write scripts, and if you don't know how to automate stuff, and you don't care about deployment, and even you don't care about source control, there are some basic stuff that you can do with the PBIR and also the TMDL that can greatly help you. Like again, just the simple, and I was very and we had a lot of discussions internally, and especially with Eeshan, and making sure that the copy and paste works, because just the copy and paste is something that everyone can understand. And I'll give you one example. You have those 4 reports, and you just want to reuse one page between the 2 reports. You cannot do that in Power BI Desktop. The only way you can reuse a page between 2 reports is you can copy the visuals, but you cannot copy the pages, you cannot copy the bookmarks. So a concept like that, I think it's easy for everyone to understand that even if you are a self-service user, you can save as a PBIP, and you can just do the copy and paste, and you open, and everything will be fine. Now, of course, that if you wanna, if we are expecting that self-service user will start manipulating that JSON, no, that's a completely different level, and that's where you do care about that when you work in a team, and you work you are deploying for you are making reports for others, and you want to automate the deployment, you want to work together with other developers, and that's the thing that we unblock with the PBIR.
Excellent. No, I think that context is really good, and it's something I have certainly had to tell a few clients on with both TMDL and everything else. Is yes, it gives you a great amount of granular control, change tracking, and all this other stuff. But without Git, it makes it harder to share. You certainly you do not want to have it in a shared synced drive. You end up with changes and save issues with locked files if it's being auto synced in OneDrive sometimes. So there are many good quality reasons to move, but this is for some people, not all people. And I think that is something that is still a good education to provide. Is it's there if and when you need it, or if you ever evolve to the point of wanting to use more quality enterprise features like Git and other stuff. But it's not a forced requirement for people. PBIXs will not be going away. This is just an advanced version of report and model management for this stuff.
Exactly.
Excellent. Thank you.
And one thing that I didn't demo, but I have this on the blog, which exactly the batch edits. So whenever you have a task, like setting up interactions between the visuals, or actually this one came from you, Reid, like hiding the visual level filters over all the visuals in the report. This is the type of stuff that you can finally automate. So you don't need to go to all those 100, 1000 visuals in your report and set that configuration. You can just script it out. And the way you script it, for example, this is the script to hide the visual level filter. So it's fairly simple.
I didn't even realize this was in the blog.
Script.
Nice.
Okay. And then again, to that point of learning from desktop, how do you know what you need to do? So all you need to do is you hide the visual level filters, you see what desktop is changing, so you learn the property that is required to hide the visual level filters, and you just go through all the visuals and you make that change.
That's brilliant. I love it. When of all the features that require the most clicks, I think that is one of the absolute worst for like every visual and everything to remove. Like I do hope that some of these get moved upstream, but I love that at least short term today, there's an option to do this until they make an option in the settings where by default, all visual level filters are hidden, which I still am very much trying to advocate for. That's fantastic. I love it.
Like in general, I've heard so many comments from customers around batch edits, like not just for hiding visual level filters, but sort of
anything,
being able to format the visuals the same way and things like that. And so a lot of those batch edit scenarios will now be like possible with this format.
And I would say this plus a combination of for a lot of the clients who want to make, I would say, batch changes, like it's a pain point if you're updating historical files, but thankfully at least leveraging stuff like the PBI, the PBI tips theme creator which
Mhm.
has like thousands of properties that can be set for default for at the global level, visual level, that does save a lot of time. So I think this plus that in combination can help avoid needing to make, repetitive changes that would
Mhm.
otherwise could be batched either by setting the default before the report gets built or by being able to script things to fix broken things. Because this is like one of many things that can be scripted as part of like BPA rules eventually. Tabular Editor has the best practices analyzer that tells you what's wrong, but it also, when applicable, provides the script to click a button where it fixes it for you automatically. And I know that there's Power Ops and a few others are all doing stuff where they're going to have a report analyzer, which today tells you what's wrong. But I would guess that external tools will be able to include these as well, so you not only see where your issues are, but you'll be able to have one-click fixes for a lot of them to go and clean it up for you and save you 30 minutes of where your eyes bleed and you're clicking 1,000 times on something.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
One of the other scenarios that I've been using PBIR a lot for is aligning visuals together. Like right now, the only way to do it is selecting every visual, going to the format pane, and then changing their X, Y position values, which becomes tedious when you have a lot of visuals. And with PBIR, I can just sort of write some code around creating templates of how my visuals should be aligned and then just filling it in with data after that.
I like that. And I actually have it's nice. Like this is coming out in a time I think where there's a lot of things that are being batched today. I do think is also being managed by the Miguel Myers and the PBI core visuals team, where there so many new features are going to come out that will fix a lot of report issues. But another big one that I would be curious, and I'm sure you can script this, but you can, unlike in Excel where you can select multiple columns and if you drag one, it automatically resizes every single column in your pivot table. You can't do that in Power BI. You have to resize. You either auto size or you have to one by one go in and resize every column with your mouse, which for anybody who's actually likes to be pixel perfect with sizing, it's really annoying not to be able to say I want every column to be 18 pixels wide or whatever the number is. So I would imagine there probably is a way to run a script in here where you could also say, for a matrix visual, make every column 50 pixels or whatever that number is. But I would assume that there would be a way to script and have a column be set to a pixel perfect width of consistency without having to use your mouse, since that's got to be in the properties somewhere.
Yeah, and that I think exactly what Rui is showing over here. Like you just make that change once, you figure out what property updated on the table, and then you can go script it out for every column in the table after that. Yep.
I have something wrong with my Git, but I'll try to do it again.
Well, and these scripts are so universal for visual properties. So like there's going to be so many Git repositories of just copy paste scripts that will just batch fix. You update a couple of parameters, you put in the visual ID you need to, and it'll go in and do the stuff for you. So I'll be very excited to see people creating this. It's just like when Tabular Editor started getting popular, years ago. Everybody started coming up with really good scripts to do auto magical fixes. So I'm sure this will have a very similar trajectory.
Right.
Yeah, just to that example you just said. So again, what I did was I went to the visual that I want to ensure the width. So I made a change, I saved, and I looked into the change in Git, and I can see that, okay, this is adding the column width to that column, and this is the width. So if you wanna, it's certainly possible to script something that will, okay, take the amount of columns and distribute them equally, or okay, the first column is 20% of the size and all the others is equally. So you can definitely, I would say that everything that you do in the report, you can script it out. Because we literally, what we do is save the entire definition into the file.
Exactly. I mean, if you can adjust it in the GUI or with your mouse in any way, there is code for that saved somewhere. It's just a matter of having a script that appropriately identifies and adds, updates, or deletes something from the pattern here in the code. But yeah, there's a lot of like percolating ideas, and I'm sure in even in the chat, like just the possibilities are endless of what's going to be done as people start to see the patterns now that we can actually roll things up to the report or to the tenant level and make these kind of changes.
Exactly.
So cool.
And yeah, so this is the
Eeshan,
demo. I haven't planned for any other demo, but again, the sky is the limit here. So there are so many possibilities, so many scenarios. That one about the Fabric notebook. So if you go to my Git, I have a few of those, like swapping a logo using the PBIR, translating a report. That is, in my opinion, a great use case that showcased the power of Fabric, because we are using a Fabric notebook, we call the APIs, and at the same time, we call the out-of-the-box machine learning services to translate the report into multiple languages. So all we need to do is go to the parameters and say, okay, to which language I want to translate. I can even translate into Klingon, and I just put the parameter in here, and in the end, I get a report generated for in all the different languages for me. So I don't need to do the translation myself.
That would be really funny if somebody did a report on like Star Trek data or whatever that might be, and then they translated that. That would be the ultimate level of like extra nerd. That would be hilarious. Yeah, the amount of stuff that can be leveraged, like semantic link is, of all the things that I think were announced as part of like the releases this year, and certainly at Fabcom, that I think is the #1 most impactful thing, at least specifically for Power BI. That's come out for stuff. Granted, I'm biased on more of the report and model layer, and I do less of like Azure stuff, but I think that there's so many different things that you can do with the semantic link, both writing and reading from the models using that. Like I think it's a really game-changing feature to come out for as part of the Fabric platform.
And now with the report as well. So and
well, yeah,
and there
exactly,
are
like yeah. Next thing is to start to figure out how we can remove bookmarks from the black box that it is. You know, I think there's going to be a lot of possibility for better documentation, and then also potentially the ability to copy a bookmark to other reports, which isn't possible today. Yeah, you'd have to keep the same file, but I think the threshold of complexity will be lowered for them a little bit, and also just knowing how they work too, going forward. But I think from both of you, a good question here.
You want to talk about that, Eeshan, a little bit?
Yeah,
Sure,
actually, if you have any comments, please.
Yeah, bookmarks are insanely complicated right now.
Yes.
We looked into them even for these first few releases, and just the amount of work and the complexity that will be there to document them properly, demystify them, as you're saying, like the black box that bookmarks are. It's complex, and so it's not something we've touched a little bit on them in these first few releases. We definitely have plans to keep working on them in some of the future releases that are coming up, for sure. Yeah.
I mean, it's probably not inaccurate to say that of all the report features, bookmarks are one of the most complicated things that exist in the report layer. Like the amount of code that exists in a single bookmark can be insane.
Yeah, I think filters and bookmarks are like the two most complex things, in my opinion, for reports.
Yeah, just because the amount of configuration that one can have on a single page to have to snapshot to go back to it can be very simple, but it can be a nightmare black box scenario. I've even seen some of the external tools that start to document bookmarks, and even when it's listed out, formatted, tabbed, and everything else, it's still very long and complicated to even look at properly documented bookmarks when especially for somebody who has like 120 objects on a page and a bunch of visuals and sync slicers. it's still hard to even interpret what that stuff goes into. Oh, I do see, Rui, that you might be showing some limitations as well, which I think might be a good way to wrap up what we're talking about today. Is talking about, we've talked about what features are available, but what limitations there might be and what's coming next.
Yeah, so I mentioned in the blog, so there is an extensive list of limitations. Again, the main reason why we decided to ship in June was to put the PBIR in hands of customers, to give the customers the opportunity to become familiar with it, understand it, provide feedback. But we are aware that on the service side that there are limitations that may stop you to even try it in the service and share it with the users. I wanna say that despite the big list, we are already working on them for a few months. So when, for example, in the next few weeks, these 4 will be resolved, which are, as you can see, very important and relevant features like the export PDF, the subscriptions, the mobile layout. So today, in June, if you publish a report with mobile layout, you will see that it won't work in the mobile Power BI embedded. If you look into the documentation, all the limitations are listed here. And in the next few months, we want to resolve all of them. So take that into consideration when trying the PBIR, because another thing that is important to understand is you cannot undo. If you convert into the PBIR, it will stay the PBIR and you cannot go back to the PBIR legacy, that report.json. So if you do that, make a backup. If you are using Git, no problem. You already have backup out of the box. But the thing that I definitely don't want to happen is someone just jumping into the PBIR, publishing a report in the production, and then realizing that they cannot easily roll back. Okay, but the upcoming months, it's not the soon of 1 year. So we wanna I wanna make clear that this will be in the next 3-4 months. We wanna resolve all the limitations here. Another thing is what's next. So the PBIR format, it's going to be the default format going forward. And now we can finally talk about GA and GA of developer mode. And I keep getting this question a lot, like, okay, when we are going to GA developer mode? We couldn't GA developer mode with the old format. Now we finally are in a position where we can start that road to the GA of developer mode. I don't want to share any timelines now, but the PBIR is the milestone that can put us on that road, and that will be the main focus of the team is to GA developer mode. That means when we GA developer mode, we are going to GA PBIR, and we are going to GA at the same time the TMDL, and the PBIR will be the default format on every experience. So this means that, for example, if today you create a report in the service and you connect to Git, you will still see that report.json file. So if you want to try the PBIR, what you need to do is you need to open that in Power BI Desktop, and Desktop will do that conversion for you. Going forward, when we are close to GA, that conversion will also happen in the service. But for now, it's a desktop only. And about the feedback, please share any thoughts on that you have, or things that we could get better. And you have two places to share that. So if you go to the blog, you have a link in here. This will take you to a form. I'm watching this with an eagle eye, so just you can share the feedback in here, and you can even there are some questions like, okay, what are the biggest limitations? So we can also set some prioritization here. But if you do want to share a more detailed feedback, there is another link that will take you to the Fabric community, to a thread I created some time ago, where you can share whatever you want, not only for TMDL, but not only for PBIR, but even about TMDL and developer mode. And yeah, again, really excited to see what you guys will create with this. This was a big milestone on the Power BI team, and especially on the Pro BI team. It was a big effort from all the engineering team. So again, thanks, Eeshan. So we this was quite of a journey. We started a year ago. But I think it's great to see the feedback and the possibilities that this will open.
It's paid off. I'm sure, and like the individuals like me and a lot of other people have been, jonesing for this with a lot of hunger ever since TMDL came out. So I'm glad to see the public light of day and get a chance for a lot of feedback. But like as you said, highly encourage anybody. Like the number one thing that's going to help this over the next few months and year evolve is getting the feedback through the forums and the community forums. I do have I have a couple questions from the chat, but just could you go back to that limitation page? And you have a limitation of 1,000 pages on a report. So like, have you ever seen someone who has a single report file with 1,000 tabs?
All the time.
I would want to burn that with hot fire. Like I would run away from that as fast as I could. My God.
Yeah. No, I think a lot of these limitations, I've definitely seen reports with like more than 1,000 pages, even visuals, like 300 visuals on a page. It's hard to imagine that much content, but it happens. We've seen that all the time.
True. Well, and they're not built at once. It's one of those where, and I actually think I'm partly responsible for this with a few clients. Is years ago I did a video on page level security because at one point we had an option to have a button to be a page navigator, and it could go to a page that was selected from a slicer. So a couple of clients did that, and my thought was you'd have 10 or 15 pages, and the page would show if you have row level security for it, kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. People ended up taking those 10 pages and making one for Sharon, and then Bob, and then Steve, and Susan. So they would duplicate those, and they would end up with hundreds of pages that were identical, other than they had different filters because they were doing this really weird scenario. So but yeah, I've seen a few hundred pages in a report, never 1,000. But I saw that, it immediately that gave me anxiety of some of the stuff that I've seen where it's 1,000 pages and 300 visuals a page, and you want to burn it with hot fire. I think to wrap up, I have a couple of questions that I want to pop on the screen here. One was from Matthias Tierbach, and this is for you, Eeshan. So if tools inject additional properties into a PBIP file, will those remain in there and stay untouched by desktop?
Yeah, today we have a very strict format for PBIP, or PBIR, I want to say. So if you're injecting additional properties, that will fail our schema validation today. And we made a conscious decision to start there. We'll listen for feedback and see how much we want to relax it. But that's the starting point. Is like, if you have additional properties that we don't understand, schema validation will fail. Like, you won't be able to open those reports to start with. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, perfect. And thanks for the answer to that one. And actually, let me switch back to our main screen here. And I think as a takeaway from both of you, we've covered pretty much what's the limitations are, and also just like what's available today. But from each of you, what would you say is the thing that you're most excited in the at least the public roadmap of what's coming soon, of some of some of the updates that will be happening, and why? I'll start with you, Eeshan.
Yeah, for me, I think just documenting more stuff on the format. One of the things that we are looking into right now and seeing how feasible it is, will be documenting all of the visual formatting objects. So if you declare your visual type as, say, a line chart, in VS Code, you'll get like IntelliSense for only the formatting properties that apply for a line chart, not for like all the visuals. And so it will also give you much more better IntelliSense as you are working through it, either in VS Code or using automated tools, because all of this information will be part of our schemas as well. And so that's the thing I'm looking forward to the most and hoping we can get that in soon.
So a better developer experience when coding, essentially, and a lot
Yeah.
more of the intelligence and assistance with that. Excellent. Rui, for you, what's one of your highlighted or favorite things that are coming in the pipeline in the near future?
So something that we are working on, and I don't want to set the expectations too high, because things can go bad. But so take it with a grain of salt. But I want to improve, or we want to improve the integration between desktop and VS Code if you have VS Code installed, and at the same time, we want to let you or allow you to make changes outside of desktop, and desktop detect those changes and reload them. Because today, what if you do a batch edit? Let's say you do a batch edit or rename that folder, you need to restart desktop, because desktop it's not, and that's a principle, and that's a by design of the developer mode. So desktop is not looking into the files, and it's not inspecting those files. So this is something that we are working on. It's again, it's one of those things that is more difficult than it sounds, but it's something that we want to do and detect the change and be able allow you to reload that change without having to restart desktop, because we know that restarting desktop, especially on a large model, just reloading things into memory can take quite a bit of time. And enhancing the integration with VS Code. Why not like open in VS Code that will just open the folder for you, and it's kind of a view code, right? So it's kind of a view code of viewing the guts of your Power BI development, and be good with that. Like jumping between the two tools. That's something that I'm very excited to work on. Again, take it with a grain of salt, but it is something that we are looking into.
And like that kind of that pipe dream of almost, what would it be? What's the tool? Deneb visual, where you have like code block on the left and visual canvas kind of on the right, and you just make a line edit of any amount of code, and you just see instant changes. Like something like that in the future, I can make things like PBIR so agile that that's the like perfect scenario that I could envision in the future is you just having them side by side and in just instant edit changes that you can go in and you click a visual. It like highlights the property block that you have related to it, things like that. Something like that would be super cool to see down the road.
Yeah, don't forget to create an idea. It's definitely
right?
possible.
Yeah, exactly. But anything that makes coding less scary to a degree, right? The like having an experience where you're at the code level, but it's focused enough that you're only maybe looking at 5 or 10 lines of code at a time. So it's very manageable and mostly readable. Like you can understand the property with things like that. So I like that it's lowering the bar of complexity for people who want to dabble in this, but haven't lived and breathed in PowerShell like you have had for years. But I really appreciate both of you for coming on and sharing your expertise on this. Eeshan, great to get you on for the first time on a stream. Hopefully I can get both of you and either of you separately back on in the future as this continues to evolve. But yeah, thank you for taking time out of your day, Eeshan, and from you, Rui, your evening over in Portugal. So I'm sure we'll be chatting again sometime soon in the future.
Great.
Nice. Yep.
Thank you everybody for joining.
Thanks.
See you next time.
Absolutely. Yeah, cheers. Thank you so much for watching. Please consider hitting that like and subscribe button. And if you want to help support this channel, take a look at our channel memberships or our merchandise store for cool swag. And last but not least, please consider sharing this video on your social media platform of choice to help our channel grow. So, until next time.